all day long, Great Britain.
The deficit. We looked at 28 health authorities last week, £76 billion of NHS budget. Now, Norfolk has a huge deficit, £89 million. We have Surrey and Sussex with a thumping great £102 million deficit, and North West London, which comes in top at £106 million, leading to a total deficit in the NHS predicted at the end of the financial year of £750 million. Now, all this is beginning to have an effect on jobs, rather predictably, I suppose. This last week, Stoke-on-Trent announced up to 1,000 job cuts up there. Tonight, Plymouth Hospitals Trust announced 200 job cuts. And Queen Mary's Sidcup, we found out, is planning on 190 possible job cuts. And one of the London teaching hospitals as well is talking in terms of 400 posts going, mostly agency staff. And this trend will really only accelerate now towards the end of the financial year.
Any other ways they're trying to cut their cloth?
Well, they're in a bit of a difficult position because they can't cut the number of operations they do because they get paid for the number of operations, so that's counterproductive. Therefore, what they're going to have to do is they're going to become more efficient, which is exactly what the government wants them to do. So, in effect, they're going to have to ensure that patients stay in hospital for fewer days for standard operations. That, in turn, will release staff. That means they can cut their agency staff and therefore save money. That's what they're pinning on now. Now, that's quite a tall order, but most of the hospitals I've been speaking to are planning that. And tonight, what we'd like to ask viewers tonight, really, is to say what's happening to hospitals in viewers' patch. If you find out as a viewer that something's going on in your patch, then contact us via the website. Tell us what's going on. We'll investigate it.
Richard, thank you. The acting Israeli Prime Minister was hinting today that if he wins the elections next week, he'll pull out of some of his country's settlements in the occupied West Bank. On the other hand, everyone knows that he has no intention at all of pulling out of many of the settlements which give most offence to Palestinians. It's widely agreed that the elections are the most important for years. At stake is how and whether a stalled peace process can get started again. We asked John Lyne to go to take a look for us.
They have ambitious expansion plans here in Ariel. On a sunny day in spring, it's an idyllic place to move to. The population is growing. There's a thriving university. The future looks all very promising. The deputy mayor showed me where they hope to build new homes that would more than double the size of the town, taking it up to 50,000. There's only one tiny problem. If you look closely to the neighbouring hillsides, you'll see the Palestinian villages, because this is in the heart of the West Bank, and Ariel is one of the largest and most controversial settlements. This is where the Israeli leader Ehud Olmert chose a few days ago to make perhaps his key speech of the election campaign.
Ariel will be an inseparable part of Israel under any situation. The land here is integral to the state and will remain so forever.
Keep Ariel and the big settlements, lose the small ones. Draw a permanent border by 2010, mostly along the line of the barrier that so far here is just a dirt road. The magic formula from Ehud Olmert for the election and for Israel.
Israel has to set its own borders in its own interests. 60 years after the Holocaust, we cannot have any doubt about the security of the country. We've got to look after ourselves.
It all amounts to a good hair day for the people here in Ariel. These are no religious zealots. Like most of the rest of Israel, they just want to be able to lead a normal life. Dolly Seller has made the settlement her home for the last 8 years.
I want that Ariel will be ours. Yes.
And you don't mind if the smaller settlements go?
No. Of course not.
For Mr. Olmert's Kadima party, though, there's an issue that can't be glossed over.
No, I will not vote for Olmert. I don't know who do I vote?
But you like his ideas?
I like his ideas, yes.
Yeah, why not vote for Olmert?
I don't like the person. I don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't like him. I don't like him.
And that's the key for the media team of Kadima, the Foreign Minister, Tzipi Livni, and the rest of the advisors. Most of them owe their careers to Ariel Sharon, as does Olmert. So how to emerge out of his shadow?
Okay.
Israelis know that in this neighborhood we need tough leadership in order to make peace. And Ariel Sharon was just that. He was a tough leader who won the war against terrorism in order to start the process towards peace through disengagement.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Because Ehud Olmert doesn't have that reputation as the tough guy, the bulldozer.
Yes, but he has those qualities. And the way to show those qualities is simply to expose him and the team around him that was selected by Ariel Sharon, and his commitment to continue and follow the Sharon legacy.
The big man is central to the campaign. They even use his voice while he's still in a coma. But Olmert is going into much more detail about his plans than Sharon ever did. And that's politically risky, especially after the Hamas victory. The right wing claims setting the final borders is just appeasement, giving in to Israel's enemies. In attack ads from Likud, Mr. Olmert even sports the green cap of Hamas.
Kadima is responsible for the unilateral withdrawal from Gaza, which basically has ended up with the victory of the Hamas terror organization. And instead of learning the lesson, what they're now offering is a similar, far-reaching, of more of the same, unilateral withdrawal, this time in the rest of the area. And that's the basic problem, not just for Israel, but for anyone in the free world who does not want to see a terror state in this area.
But it's not a message they're hearing in Tel Aviv's legendary night spots. Here they're switched off by talk of settlements, deaf to discussions about the borders. Which makes it a rather bizarre campaign stop for Uzi Landau and his Likud team. A late-night bar crawl. Politics meets the party crowd, dusting off the disco trousers as they try to interest people in the next government, not the next dance. Can you speak? Can people hear you? Are you getting your message across?
Well, first of all, you could figure out by yourself the welcome that we got. It was quite weird. They accepted us very well.
Well, not the ones I spoke to.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic.
Why?
Why? Because this is not a place for a campaign.
We came to drink and have fun, not to think about politics.
In fact, only 44% of those aged under 32 say they plan to vote, an age group that covers a third of the electorate. The people here just don't believe it's such a critical election.
Nobody believes in them anymore. Talk, blah, 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 you know?
We need something new. Not Likud, not Avoda, something new.
But the political debate here is as set in stone as the ancient buildings. Many Israelis want a new perspective. This is mini Israel. No disputed borders here, no settlements, and no sign of the West Bank in this mini theme park. It's just the sort of normal country most Israelis dream of, and Ehud Olmert tantalizingly offers.
Different languages, they call him Allah, we call him Hashem or God. It's the same thing going on, and please there'll come a time where we can all do it together.
Tour guide Reuven Lavi happens to live in a settlement, but he's like all Israelis. He wants everything, but he doesn't quite know how to get it.
To be really honest with you, I'm totally confused. I used to think I knew what I knew. I'm totally confused. I don't know what any of the parties really hold for me. I actually live the other side of the Green Line. I'm what they call a settler. And we hope there will be some kind of security for the state and people of Israel.
And if it's complicated here, the problems in real Israel only expand to scale. This is the country's new tourist attraction. A guided tour of the barrier around Jerusalem to allow Israelis to decide for themselves. Even some supporters of the project have their doubts when they actually drive the route.
And in Jerusalem everything is confusing because everything is, the borders are not so clear. Even some places they are clear, the borders are not so clear.
So this is one place where the line of the barrier that's gradually taking shape probably won't become part of the permanent border Ehud Olmert is offering the voters. The problem here is how to guarantee a Jewish majority in Jerusalem. But the fundamental contradiction in Olmert's strategy is all too clear.
Even if we impose the borders unilaterally, but we leave the holy sites without an agreement, it means that we actually did not solve the crux of the matter, the heart of the problem, and without that, no feasible solution is possible.
If they reject that simple deal, stop terrorism, take a state, then what is our option? To continue fighting forever? To kill everybody? Is that what you suggest to us?
But you're selling the Israeli people something you can't deliver. You can't deliver permanent borders. You can call them that, but if the world doesn't recognize them, they're nothing.
You assume, I'm sure talking for the world, that the world will not recognize them. We'll have to wait and see about that.
You can still scramble around the barrier here because it's not yet finished. This is deeply opposed by the Palestinians, and most Israelis realize the strategy is not ideal. But it looks like they're about to vote for it.
John Lyon in Israel. Some of tomorrow morning's